Hey guys, seems like I'm live. Okay, so please write in the chat if you can hear me fine. I have this mic here, so hopefully the sound should be good. And I guess I'll just start. So some of you are approved copywriters of Smartcat that we might have or might not have worked with already. Others are probably external watchers. Maybe you have submitted your applications to become a Smartcat copywriter, but I haven't responded yet. Sorry for that. Anyway, today I will go into the details of how actually this whole thing works, and starting with whatever Smartcat is, because a lot of you will not be aware. Also how the whole industry works, and then going on to some specifics and so on. If the video doesn't work well for you at any point, you can go directly to the presentation I will be presenting. You can see the link. Why am I so light? Let me try to fix this quickly. Yep. Let's do it like this. Yeah. Seems a bit better. So you can go directly to this link and watch these slides. Also, you can later come back to this video if you do not remember the link. You can use this short bit link that you see on the screen. Anyway, let's proceed. We will talk today about a few things. I will start with a general description of how the language industry works, what participants it has, and what problems it has as well. Then I will tell a bit about Smartcat, whatever it is, how it is different from all the other things in the industry, and it is different. Then I will go to what kind of content we create, who we write it for, and how we try to write it. Next, I will go to the specifics of the process, how it actually works, and where to go if you don't know something. So starting with the industry, here's the slide. You see, it's not too populous right now. That's because I wanted to draw the story as I am presenting. Let me switch to another screen, which is my paint, and let me try if it works. Because I have a very cool thing here called a tablet. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So the language industry, in the very simple form, it seems very simple. Sorry for the repetition. So you have some kind of document, let's say in English, and you have to translate it to some other language, let's say Spanish. In the very first, and yeah, you have a customer, someone who needs to translate it. In the very first approximation, you just find a guy, a translator, a freelancer, and they translate it for you. But as time goes and there becomes more and more documents, you start needing someone in the middle of this process, because this guy might not be available at all times, and sometimes it is easier for the customer to work with another company, which we call LSP, which is basically the main abbreviation we have in our trade, which means language service provider. It is a company that essentially takes big jobs from the customer and assigns it to one or more freelancers. Also, as the time goes, customers get bigger and they start wanting to translate not only to one language, to 2, 3, 5. It can be anywhere like 20 or even 50 languages. And that's where another participant comes into place, which is, I don't know where to put it, but let's say here. Yeah. No, not so good at drawing. Anyway, I tried drawing a robot, so why is it just one eye? Anyway, let's technology. Right. So technology comes in many forms. Most of you, I'm pretty sure, have heard about machine translation, which is when a computer takes text in one language and gives you a text in another language. There are many other technologies. For instance, there are technologies for quality assurance that try to catch typos and so on. There are also technologies for many things anyway. Glossaries, dictionaries, and so on. That's basically it. And today, a big problem in the industry is that content is getting bigger and bigger. There is more and more to translate. And the good old ways where companies just send each other files, documents, they no longer work, because time to market shrinks and you need to have everything very quickly. And on this backdrop, you need something that would speed this up and something that would allow to make it all in an automated fashion with as little human effort as possible. So let me copy this wonderful drawing to the presentation, because we will likely need it afterwards, and I will switch back to it. Right, yeah. So let me, before going to the next slide, let me look at your questions. No questions so far. Good. So now we go to Smartcat and whatever it is and why we need it. So Smartcat essentially is a thing that unites them all. It's like an operating system where all these participants work together. So let me move them to different sites. Technology, freelancers, and so on. And in the middle we have, one second, let me find our beautiful logo. Yeah. Okay, a bit distorted, but anyway. In the middle we have Smartcat, so it's a place where all the participants can work together. Customers can upload their documents and assign them either to freelancers or to LSPs. Then LSPs in turn can assign them to more LSPs or to freelancers. And all the while, all the participants can use the technology that is already integrated with Smartcat, such as machine translation, because Smartcat has a real lot of machine translation engines connected. And by connecting all these parts together, Smartcat allows a process that runs much smoother, much quicker, and with much less overhead. Sorry, I just realized you didn't see what I was drawing. So yeah, here it is. I will copy it now into the slides. Yeah, that's how it looks. Let me check your questions as well. Increase the volume of the microphone. I increased it now. Hopefully it's not clipping. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. If I'm too loud for someone now, you can turn the volume down a bit. Or I can also speak a bit louder. 1 second. Okay, so going to the next slide. To present all of this that I just told you in layman's terms to actual users, customers, the guys who you will hopefully write for, we invented the term connected translation. And it combines what I just said. Here are the links you can use to read more about it, but in general it's like a flywheel that connects all these parts, starting with, let me check if you see it. Okay, I think I can move myself here. Starting with connectivity, which means that instead of sending files, we connect directly to the customer. And by we, I do not mean we as in Smartcat. I mean an LSP. So if you run a translation agency, which is another name for an LSP, and you have a customer who has a WordPress website, for example, you can use a special Smartcat connector or integration to get the content from that site directly into your Smartcat account, where you can see it like, let me actually show it how it can look for you to better understand it. I'll open up our internal translation projects. Yeah, so if you are an LSP, you see something like this with a lot of projects. Each of project can have one or more files, and that's your workspace basically. Let me check back here. So you connect and grab content from your customer's system. Then you translate it right here on the system, which means that if you go, for example, here, you can see the actual source text and its translation. That's how it works. That's the translation automation part. And it has a lot of technology related to it that is already built into Smartcat. That's the translation part of it. Then you have scalability, which means that if you run an LSP and you only have, for example, one Spanish translator, and all of a sudden you get a large assignment, you can find new people right here on Smartcat, which is done basically with a couple clicks of a button. You click find freelancers, and you open an open marketplace where there are 250,000 something translators that you can choose from, and you get the cost calculation automatically, all very handy. Then you have management, because you can see all the work done in real time. You can see which stage each of your projects is at. You can see the actual translations and so on. And last but not least, when you work with 20 languages, it's pretty likely that you will have at least 20 translators, perhaps more. And to pay them all, you would need a lot of effort and overhead costs if you did this manually with every translator located in a different country. So with Smartcat, you combine all the jobs together. You create a single invoice for the total amount. You pay it to Smartcat, and that Smartcat distributes the amount among all the freelancers. This is done. The costs for this differ. There are subscription costs, there are pay-as-you-go costs, but we will not delve into this detail now. What is important to understand that these two parts, scalability and payments, are basically the main monetization sources for Smartcat. because for marketplace, Smartcat gets a percentage on every translator's rate, and for payments there are also some fees involved. So that's one of the two biggest things that Smartcat makes money on. The other things are there because we want to be this operating system, and we need them, because otherwise there will be no selling value for the customer. But the real money generators so far are this and this, because that and that is available basically for free. So you can, if you have your own team, you can translate any number of documents, projects without paying a dime. You can also use all the progress tracking functionality and so on for free. And that's it. Let me go to your questions. Yeah, so far so good, right? Coming back to our presentation. Yeah, that's basically what I already told. The list of products, it's not set in stone because we rework them every now and then, calling them different names, but the essence is the same. There are these five things that can be separated out of the single whole. As you will be working with us, you will notice a lot of terms and abbreviations in the briefs you get, so you can get back to this slide at any point if you do not understand what each of these means. I will not stop on each of them. I will just say that some of them are for internal use. We do not use them in external communication. For instance, we do not say EC when referring to end customer, we just say end customer. But in internal communication, when we talk to each other, we can say EC, PMO, C2C, RN, and so on. We can also say frills instead of freelancers, just because it's shorter. And I will also make a specific comment about computer-aided translation, to use it with care only when it is absolutely unavoidable. Why? Because a lot of people understand Smartcat to be just a CAT tool. For some of you, it might not mean anything, but some of you might have heard. So CAT is basically the part that I showed you with, I already closed it. Anyway, so where you saw this translation environment, where you saw the source column and the target column. That's basically what CAT is, along with the technology that comes with it. So Smartcat is not just a CAT tool. CAT is only a small part of it, and to avoid people focusing too much on the CAT part in Smartcat, which was perhaps a decision that could be made different, but it's already there. So to keep the focus away from this, we do not use the term computer-aided translation everywhere. We try to call it translation automation or something like this. We do have articles in our blog that say like top 10 CAT tools in 2019, but that's basically for people to find our blog if they search for CAT. There are exceptions, so, but in general, if you are not sure, better not to use it, or ask your customer or me. What kind of content we create? Perhaps the part that might be the most interesting for most of you. So, in no specific order, there are white papers to make people more aware of the problems the industry faces, because a lot of people have problems they do not realize they have. We write white papers, which is big research type articles, basically. We try not to include a lot of self-promotion there. We might mention ourselves here and there, but in general it's more like informational material. I can show you some white paper, for example. White paper, for example, we have this one. It's not the best one, to be honest, on my own scale. So top 5 barriers to good vendor management in the translation business. Yeah, it says how to overcome them with Smartcat, because it's probably an old version. So you list the problems, go into some detail describing them. If you look through all of this, actually it's an old version. In the new version, we removed all mentions of Smartcat here, so it's more or less just informative, and just in the end we say that you can solve this problem with Smartcat. Then we write one-pagers, which is basically the same but shorter. The title is self-explanatory. Then we write blog articles and case studies, which is perhaps the most hard to write content, which we use copywriters, external outsourcers like you the most for, because we need to write a lot. Every blog article is around 1000 words long, so we need some external support here most of the time. You can find our blog at blog.smartcat.ai. You can see that there are quite a few case studies here. A case study is when we talk to some user of ours and then make an article of it, which says, it not only says about how good Smartcat is, it also talks about some everyday problems these people face, so that others who read this can relate better. We also include some human things about people behind every case. We write release notes with every new release of the product and help articles. These are perhaps the driest type of content we create. You more or less just mention what the product can do and what's new in it. Of course, we also include some kind of motivational wording there, but it is mostly limited. Then we have email sequences. The reason why I bolded it out is because it's perhaps the most popular type of content we create, writing to a lot of people about different products, about new releases, about some events we might have, and so on. Then we have obviously website pages. We try to create at least one new landing page a week, so it's a page on the website that is intended for a specific kind of audience or use case that we hope will help more people get to know Smartcat and get to use it. Then we have social media posts on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, mostly. These are short and most of the time we handle them internally, but that may change. And then last but not least, we have some fun stuff. For instance, the other day I was trying to come up with a comic that we will be using for promotion. And yeah, that's perhaps the most fun stuff to do. It doesn't come too often, but when it does, it's fun. Let me get back to your questions. Mikhail asks, are there only translation jobs? Are there other writing job stacks in the platform? So, okay, you got it, but I will anyway explain a bit. So when we talk about Smartcat as a platform, as a marketplace, we have mostly translators, editors, proofreaders there. Also, you can list yourself as a copywriter there, as a project manager, interpreter, and so on. The difference is that there is no integrated workflow for this. So if you are a copywriter, all you can do is get contacted and then do it somewhere externally. This is hopefully going to change at some point, but not now. So but if you are asking about jobs that you're about to have, these will be copywriting jobs. We are now talking not about translation jobs. We do not generally need to translate our content because we write it straight away in English with a varying degree of nativeness, but we have proofreaders, guys like you, who make sure it sounds natural in English. Mamta asks, in what sense a white paper is different from an article? A white paper is generally a PDF, and when we distribute it, we either send a short mail that has an attached PDF, or we have a landing page where a person should leave their contact details. Let me see if I can, not in this browser, let me see if I can find it right away. Autopilot, Smartcat, yeah. That's one of the first white papers we made, project management on autopilot. So a person leaves their email here and they get a white paper. The fact that they have to enter their email, of course, makes it less convertible. The conversion is less. But on the upside, in this case, a person feels like they received something of value. And the very type of, or the format of PDF makes it more valuable than just an article you open on the web and that anyone else can open. It's closer to, let's say so, a real life paper or whatever. Also, we distribute white papers via ads on LinkedIn mostly. Okay, let's go further. Who we write for? So we have different TAs, which means target audiences. Our biggest audience is LSPs. This is the biggest part of our user base. Maybe not by the count, because there is of course more freelancers than LSPs. We have around several thousands LSPs and several hundred thousands freelancers. But in terms of the value they bring to the platform, LSPs are of course primary. Then we have freelancers, as I said, and also we have ECs, which means end customers. This is a direction that is not too powerful right now, but this is changing rapidly. So more and more end customers join the platform since the beginning of the year, and this target audience is growing. The job titles you will be writing for is either CXOs, founders and so on, CFOs, which we divide out separately because we talk a lot about payment automation, and for CFOs the language you should use when you talk about payment automation is a bit different than when you write to CXOs. You must be more specific. You can include some jargon or something that these people will understand, and so on. Then we write to PMs, project managers, which are perhaps the most populous users of the platform after freelancers, because when we have an LSP on the platform, we definitely have at least one, sometimes many more project managers. And then there are vendor managers. Vendor managers at LSPs are people who get in touch with freelancers, who select them, who build their own databases of freelancers. So it's like an HR but for freelancers, I can say so. And finally, an important thing to make, I didn't include a link here, awareness stages. Unaware means a person who doesn't know they have a problem. So if we write about connected translation, for example, we might say something like, you don't know this, but the way things are going are changing. If they are aware, we can write, you already know that things are changing, but you perhaps do not know there is a solution. For research, these people already know there is some kind of solution, but they don't know what it is exactly, and they are researching the options, the different competitors in the market, and trying to make their general mind. For evaluation, they already know we exist. They already try to compare us with other competitors. And customers are people who are already using our platforms. So when you get project briefs, you always get this kind of information, who you are writing it for, whether it's an LSP. So it can look like this. You're running for CXO at LSPs at an unaware stage, for example. I also include this, I don't know how to say it, but it can be cold warm. So if you're writing emails, you can either write to people who, for example, are our users or somehow signed up for our newsletter, which will be a warm email, or you can write to people for the address of which we got from other sources, in which case it is called cold. We prefer not to call it spam, but not all people like this. We do not get a lot of complaint about it, but it's an important part of our strategy, of our information strategy. And we try to write them really well. We do not make spam messages that you see when you go to your spam folder. For example, here is one. Do you see it? Let me see. Yeah. An example of an email we wrote for people who we think can use our client portal. We clearly describe the problem in the beginning because it's getting harder and harder for smaller SPs to compete with the big guys. And then we say that it's companies like you that inspired us, and we give them a link. We do not write a lot here at all. And last but not least, we are writing for humans, which brings me to the next part, but if you don't mind, I will open the window here because it's getting too hot. I will be back in half a minute. Let me take my headphones. I don't even know why I use them because I can only hear myself, but it's somehow comforting to hear yourself. Let me see if there are any questions. Okay, Adri asks, what is your current frequency of blog article publication? Do you plan to increase that? Okay, our current frequency is in the order of 1 or 2 or 3 articles per week. We do have a bit of a bottleneck here. And yes, we do plan to increase it. And I think if we have an article a day would be great. Perhaps, yeah, we can do with 3 articles a week. The articles must be all different, so it mustn't be, has to be not self-promotion. It has to be case studies and so on. The target audiences for the blog, actually let me go to the blog. You can see that there are different tags here. Companies, LSPs. There was also freelancers. I don't know where it disappeared. I will try to find out later. So yeah, the main target audience here is also LSP. If you click this tag, you see a lot of articles for them. That's who we write the most of content for. But we also write some generic content, for example, transcreation. This kind of content is created from our SEO analysis. So we have a special guy, Alexei, who researches search engines, queries, trying to find out what kind of things people are interested in, and then we write articles about it. Perhaps that's the easiest thing to write for an outsourcer because it doesn't require deep knowledge of the product. And if you go into this article, for example, you see that it's basically not Smartcat related. By the way, it's a great article by Becky, who is in the audience now. The maximum we can do here is include the occasional pro tip. So when we talk about the importance of transcreation, we can include a quick link to go to our marketplace and see translators specializing in marketing, for example. But in general, this is meant just for people to discover our blog, hopefully subscribe to updates, and then get some interesting information about us as well. So let's go further. When I say we write for humans, that is the most important part for me to talk about and say how we try to write, which can be phrased in 2 ways, a politer one and the less polite one. The politer one is version A. We try to be blunt, brief, and bright. Blunt means that we do not include waffle. Thanks, Becky, for telling me this word. In Russia, we call this water. So we do not include words that don't mean anything. We try to write so that as if every word has a cost, and we want to make this cost as less as possible. I sometimes say that imagine that every word you write is a kitten killed somewhere. So if you do not want to kill kittens, try to write in fewer words. It also relates to the brief part. And bright means that we want to write without sounding like some otherworldly creature that the reader cannot relate to and whose communication will be deleted right away. Version B is easier, which says cut the crap, but basically means the same. We do not want crap in our copy. And here I want to go to some examples. When we sent out the copywriter applications last time, I included this checkbox if people want to go through a free test. It was an unusual experience for me because I do not usually ask for free tests because I do not think it worked, but I wanted to find out if maybe I'm wrong, and gladly I found out that I'm not wrong. So I reviewed all these tests, and what I reviewed, first of all, the portfolio work people submitted in their applications, gave it some mark on my own scale, then I reviewed the test, and then I compared the correlation. So what I found out is basically that with a high degree of certainty, plus minus 10%, I could just abandon the test and the portfolio work you provided would be just as informative. So next time I will not ask people to do free tests. That's what I'm trying to say. But now I want to go to some of these tests to explain how we try not to write. And when I say that, don't take it as if I'm saying that it's bad writing. It might be on my own opinion, but it's just not what we at Smartcat are looking for, or what I as an editor-in-chief am looking for. I used I used a script here to edit out the emails, so it's all anonymized, and right away I started with the best test application I ever saw. I don't know your product, therefore I can't be expected to write what you're seeking. Seriously? You're obviously going to hire someone internally and are going through this process because HR says you must. No, they don't, and no, we aren't. But yeah, thanks. That gave me some solid laugh. So here are some examples I wanted to show. The test was to create an example email about a new feature we just released, which allows people not just to translate text on the platform, but also to edit the source text and to enter it from scratch. We are a very, very long way to go to the point where we have such kind of functionality, so you can be sure that it wasn't used to get some free labor. So the first one, Smartcat long-awaited new feature is here. At that point I would go to the next application right away, because people don't care about Smartcat, they do not care about new features, and they do not await anything when they open their inbox. So either you give them information in the subject line that works, that makes them want to open, or you are just writing things that no one is going to read. Of course, the test itself is also badly formatted. Hold on to your seats. That's all vain words. It may be used sometimes, but not here. Smartcat is here once again to blow your mind, and so on, so on. So if you take a look, you can see that the actual thing that we want to communicate is only written after word count, after 60 words. Then there is this. Actually, this is the test. It came in second, and I think it's the best. I don't want to give rates. It's the one I like the most of all submitted. I do not know if the guy who wrote it is here. I would call them out because it's basically a good email, but okay, anyway. So we finally did it. Create and edit source text directly in Smartcat. You can see in the subject line that the person can see right away what they want to do. Here the applicant also used some wording from our website, which means that if a person who receives this has ever seen our website, they will be aligned and they will remember these words about creating, about the content delivery loop and so on. It also includes the statement of the problem, so which previously might have bugged people, so now it's solved and you can do this, and here's how it works. That's the way I want an email to be. I do have some, I would change some things here, of course, to make it maybe to kill even fewer kittens, but in general I liked it. I will not go through the rest. It was just an illustration of what we like here and what we do not like. Let me see if there are any questions. Yeah, OMG, wow. You never know. By the way, the funny thing about the guy or the girl who submitted this, when in the previous request I asked their portfolio work, the URL was my work is under non-disclosure agreement.com. I did not check that domain, but something tells me that it wasn't there. Yeah. Being an editor can be fun. Here I included this. It doesn't fit maybe everything what I said so far, but I want you to go back to this slide here and there, because it's very useful for storytelling, because we do not try to just write content, we try to tell stories. And a good story almost always goes like this, although the order can change. So first you name, let me turn on closed captions, it was fun. So, fun, yeah, cool. Anyway, period, no, okay, let me try again. A good story almost always starts with naming a change that is going on in the world, and that it is going to change everything people knew. In our case, with connected translation, you say that there is more and more content generated, for example. It creates new winners and losers, so people who do this will win, people who do this will lose. And for those who win, point 3, you tease the promised land. For example, you can say that in the future you lean back in your chair and just watch as the work is done by itself. It's not always that easy, but you must show something coveted for the persons that they want to reach it. Then you say the obstacles, and you must explain why these obstacles cannot be overcome with the way things are going now. So why you cannot enable a continuous translation workflow if you keep sending files back and forth via emails. Finally, you need to present evidence that you are the one that can make this story come true and not some of your competitors. What helps here? Links to case studies, hard numbers. I don't know why, but people love numbers, and people love seeing that 78% of someone responded that something and so on. I find it a bit naive, but we did have tests that proved that this kind of thing works, so we try to include numbers. In most of the cases we try to include real numbers. In worst of the cases we try to make a guess about how this or that number might be. It's not that we try to make it up and say that something is there that isn't there, but we try converting sometimes qualitative characteristics, for example, a whole lot of paperwork to some concrete one, like 95% of paperwork. One moment. I'm sure I had water here somewhere. No water for me. Okay, yeah, here it is. Let me take a look at your questions. By the way, if you have questions that relate directly to the essence of copywriting, some ideas, it would be great to hear them too. No questions. But 27 people are still here listening to this. That's cool. Okay. Going next. Now we go on to the most concrete part of all of this, and I will explain the process of sending, executing, and paying for jobs on Smartcat. About 45 minutes into the presentation. So, how we send out jobs? We send them either via emails or by Skype. In Skype, we do have group chats with copywriters, but sometimes the process was a bit haphazard. We just said that we had this job, someone would reply, okay, I can take it. We would say, okay, you go and take it, and so on. Sometimes it got too messy and impossible to control, so we are now trying to switch to emails, and I will show you an example of such email. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen this one. So for instance, we had a certain job we had to do, and I sent out an email. By the way, this one is to Becky too, but everyone received this. We include the link to the Notion page of this job. I will switch to it later. We include the deadline, which is important because if you look at the job later, you can see a different deadline, but it can be later, but it means that we also need to edit it. Sometimes we also need to add some design and so on. So you know the deadline, you can read the job at the link. We are trying to work on making the briefs more informative than they are now, but it's where we are now. So you can browse it, see if you understand what is needed from you by scrolling down to task description. Ironically, we have the most maybe important part somewhere down there, but bear with us. You have some links to related tasks. Sorry, not connected. Sorry, it wasn't me writing this, I promise. And other important information. So if you are the one who received this job, if we decide that we want to give this job to you, we will add your name here. And if you aren't, you can check back and see if this field outsourcer is empty. If it is empty, it means that we are still making up our mind. If it's not, it means that the job has already been assigned and you do not need to bother anymore. So how exactly you apply for a job? You hit this button in general, but there's also a short link that I included, bit.ly/Smartcat outsourcing job quote. So you can just use it. I will use the one from here, where you have to include the link to Notion. So you open the link that we send you, copy and paste it here. You need to include whether you can meet the deadline that was in the email. I don't know why I made it with checkboxes, so you can answer yes and no at the same time. So either you can do it by the deadline, you say yes, or you cannot do it by the deadline, say no. You can also answer like this: I can do it if you approve it in an hour or something like this. So we know if there are any prerequisites involved. Then the next field is what is the earliest you can make it. So if you answer yes, for example, you can make it by tomorrow, but you can also make it by today evening, which is of course better for us. So you say that you can make it by today. Anyway, and you must specify UTC time here because you guys come from all over the world and we want some common term here, so use UTC. if you answer no, you can still apply for a job if you cannot make it by the deadline, because sometimes deadlines are, well, not so dead as they seem, and we can move it. In that case, you answer no, and you also include the earliest time you can make it by. Then you must quote your price for this job. This has changed recently. Previously, we did not ask for the price in advance, so you would just do a job, then you would say that it took you like 10 hours at this hourly rate, it cost this, but it caused a few problems in the past. So now we are requesting for every new job, we are requesting copywriters to name the price. And if you have any prerequisites for that price, you can enter them in the comments. For example, you can say, I assume that I need to do this, this, and this, but I do not include this, that, and that, and in that case, the price will be different. And in the end, you submit this job. Once you do this, we will receive a notification in our Slack channel, and we will know you are available. We will give some time to receive maybe more quotes, and based on that, we will approve someone for the job. We will contact them personally, add them to the Notion job here for others to know that the job is taken, and that's it. I know that it would be much better if we could send out emails to all the people who we send the invitations to, saying that this job is already taken, but at this point I couldn't come up with a simple way to do this, and it would take me just too much time to do this manually. Let me see if there are any questions. Are we as freelancers competing to provide the lowest price? No. We do not look for the lowest price. Moreover, my experience tells me that the lowest price usually leads to very bad results. So you are in no way expected to compete on the lowest price. Actually, I even posted on my LinkedIn some time ago the average hourly rates requested by copywriters, but I don't think if it makes any sense to post it now, because we are no longer getting charged by the hour. So I know it's hard to know in advance how much time it will take you to write something. I can tell, for me, for example, a simple email I can write in half an hour maybe. A blog article can take me anywhere from 5 to 10 hours, and in any case it's a matter of guessing here and there. And it's not that if you commit to a price, it's set in stone. So if at some point you realize that there's much more work involved than you thought, and you explain it to us, and we agree that the reasoning is solid, we can increase it. So basically, this knowing in advance is needed for us to be able to budget our costs, but it's not meant to anyhow put a burden on you. I hope that as we go further, you will know better and better how much time you need for any given job, and you will be better at guessing your price in advance. Helen asks, how often do you think you'll be sending these emails out? I don't think we will be sending them too often. In general, we usually decide on Mondays. So on Mondays we may send out these emails, and I think we are just in the beginning of this outsourcing process so far, so I guess that it will be several emails a week, maybe something like this. Yeah, per post makes much more sense. Yeah, that's good that people actually like this, because I was a bit uneasy when we abandoned the hourlies. American outlets can suck. I'm not sure I got this one. Perhaps it's some kind of idiom. So how we decide who gets the job? So we have these tiers. I talked about them previously for those of you who have passed the test. So tier 1 is basically our first line of outsourcing support. We send the first emails to these people, and if some of them agrees, we give it to them. Then we have tier 2, which are either people we haven't worked with but we have seen their work and it seems good, or people who we worked with but it's not that we were disappointed, but it wasn't just enough to be added to tier 1 at that point, which can of course change. For tier 1, it's also needed not to be a good copywriter, but also to be easy to work with, because it can be a drag when you work with 10-20 people at the same time, and some of them, I wouldn't say rude, but yeah, some people are easier to work with than others. That's an axiom, I guess. And tier 3 is like the people who we might give jobs to if other people don't accept it. And for you to understand, we have maybe in total all the tiers combined, I say several dozens of people probably. And it's not that, for some reason, it's not that it's that easy to get a copywriter for a job. So well, it might be explained pretty easily that people have other work to do, and especially if there are short notice jobs. I wish that every job would be given on Monday with a deadline of Thursday, but things go this way that sometimes you have a job on Tuesday morning that needs to be done by Tuesday evening, and this is where I guess tier 3 people can expect to show themselves. I maybe hate to say this, but that's the way things work. There are short notice jobs do exist. How do you the editing and routes of drafts? Google Docs, I assume. Yeah, that's good that you ask, because that's exactly the point of my next slide. Yes, you create a Google Doc, you name it somehow. The best way to name it is perhaps to take the name of the Notion job and to create a Google Doc of it, maybe adding a prefix like writer's copy or something, because we will be creating a copy of it afterwards, but more on that later. So you write, you send us the link. Oh yeah, and yeah, I must include here. You share it for commenting via link. So you know that in Google Docs you have this point, and the sharing option must be anyone with the link can comment, because it sucks to receive a link and understand that it doesn't open, or it opens but you cannot make suggestions to it. So don't forget this. You send the link. We make edits. In general, it's unusual, at least for me, although I'm not the only editor at Smartcat, it's unusual for me to request some changes, because luckily most of the copies I get can be worked on and I just make the edits on top. But if I see that the person totally misunderstood what was awaited of them, I will ask to change this. But if I make edits, first I make edits in your copy. The reason here is for you to understand our voice better. I may or may not include some comments. They may be self-explanatory. For instance, if I add an Oxford comma before end, it means that we adhere to the Oxford comma, which we do. If I remove all caps in titles, it means that we use sentence capitalization in titles, which we also do. So when you get your first job, you will see probably a lot of such edits, most of which hopefully will be technical, and you will be able to better understand it, or better understand the product, because the second most popular problem with first ever jobs by copywriters, after not putting the Oxford comma and using title caps, is that people do not really understand how all this LSP thing works, Smartcat things works. What I talked about in the beginning of this presentation, we're running more than an hour anyway. Hopefully we'll help you get your hand around it, but please do read about Smartcat and the industry before starting to write. Then we create a copy, which we are owners of, then we make further edits in it, and most likely you will not have to interact with us in any way this. Then we finalize the doc with the customer, the internal customer, that's the person from the company who asked us to create this content, and we accept it. After we accept it, let me see if there are questions from you. By when will we know if we've passed the test? I'm pretty sure I sent out the results already. I totally did send out the results to those who had passed, so unfortunately, if you haven't received yours, it might mean either that you haven't passed or that you have submitted them after I was reviewing them, and I will check. Is there an average price or common price for each type of content? I cannot say so far because we are just starting this per content thing. I think for a blog article it can be anywhere between $100, $200, $300, depending on the volume and the complexity. For an email it may be, for a sequence of let's say 3 emails, it can be maybe several dozens dollars or so on. As I said, try to find out what time it will take you, multiply it by your hourly rate. I can tell you that the median hourly rate for all people I requested it from is around $30. But if you are just starting out, it makes sense for you to make it smaller. If you are well, forgot the word. Anyway, if you have been copywriting for a long time and consider yourself a first-class professional, it can be 2 times higher easily. But when it comes to specific prices for specific content, it might be that a person who has an hourly rate of $60 can do it in 2 hours, while those who work at $30 per hour can make it in 4 hours, in which case the final price will be the same. But yeah, that's more or less a matter of smart. I think there's a term called smart wild as guess, and it's a matter of it. And finally, how we pay. Perhaps what you are most interested in. So there's this form, you can remember it, Smartcat custom job on Bitly, where you submit what you want to pay for. So job description, you can just put, I think, a link to Notion here. Yes, it accepts it. You put number of units. Yeah, here now you don't count hours, you just say 1 job, price the one that you said first, because yeah, we don't want to see another price. If we agreed on this one, you click submit. After this, your job goes to a spreadsheet, and once a month, usually in the first days of month, we take all the jobs that are in this spreadsheet, we approve them internally with our accountancy and so on, and we pay them out. And we pay to you via Smartcat, which means that you have to sign up with Smartcat yourself. It's so meta, I know. So you open, it looks like this, your balance. So once you sign up with Smartcat, you have this section called My Payouts, and when you get paid, you, let me go here. Do you see this? Yeah, I think you do. Select your country now. Thanks. So I go to My Payouts. I do have some money on the balance. I don't know why, but yeah. You can get paid via bank card. For instance, in Russia, you can pay it via various local e-wallets. Depending on your country, you can have your own, but usually people, I think, get paid to their bank card, and it works very well. There is no commission involved, so if you get paid $20 from us, you receive $20 here, and usually it happens in a matter of days, or 1-2 days. I think the limit is 3 business days, but usually it comes much faster. So once we pay you, very soon you will have the money on your card. It's important for us that you submit jobs this way and not sending us corporate invoices and so on, because we have quite a lot of outsourced jobs we handle, and it would take us a lot of time to handle this manually, which ironically is the same I talked about when I talked about the problems for LSPs, that it's hard to manage every payment manually. That's why Smartcat is very good for payment automation. And we use it ourselves, which perhaps tells that it's a really good solution if we use it ourselves. Finally, before we call it a day, where you can get additional info. First of all, always check the original assignment. There most likely will be some links to other documents. Sometimes they will be locked. Ask me in this case to open it. Then you check our website, our blog, our help articles page. Please do use Google. So if you see LSP, you do not know what it means, please do not come back to me and ask what LSP means, because it's a very telling indicator if person can actually use some googling around. Of course, it's more important to have a good copy in the end, but there is correlation between how well people use Google and how good a copy they can write. Then you can ask me, and you can also sometimes ask the internal customers if I bring you two together, and you can talk to them to find out some more specific details than I can answer right away. Yo, that's it. Time for your questions. I will go to them, and you can also, if any part of this presentation is not clear to you, you can go to it, add a comment, I will see it and I will respond to it. Let's take a look at your comments. By the way, I don't know if it's comments or comments. Do you use PayPal? Let me go there. I think we do have PayPal as a payout option. I think what you can do is you can write to support. I think we can pay out to PayPal in certain cases. I'm pretty sure there was a PayPal option here. I do not see it now. You can check for yourself if you do not see PayPal right away. Let me try maybe removing my card and adding it once again. Bank card. No, it must be a card. I think there was an option. I'm not sure, but you write to support@smartcat.ai or just here, contact support, and ask them if you can be paid out to PayPal. I'm pretty sure this should be possible, even if not from the UI. When will I get my first assignment? Good question. Means you will be following really well. When we send out the first invitation with job details, and when you respond to it, and when we realize that among the people who responded, you are the most fitting applicant for this specific job. Is it the same process for native English proofreading work? Yeah, it's great that you ask, because the answer is no. I will add all of you people who passed the test and who indicated yourself as native speakers to a chat on Skype where we have all the proofreaders, and there it's more, it's easier. We just send out some job, some document that needs to be proofread. You need to say yes, I'm available. You go suggest edits, and basically if you say yes, I'm available, and you can say I will do it right now. You do not need to wait for our confirmation. You just do it right away, and you, in that case, you submit your hours via the same form, but in that case you indicate the number of hours. Usually it will be maybe half an hour, yeah, and then you get paid in the usual process. Rachel asks, do we need Skype? Generally not, because as I said, we are now trying to send out emails with job assignments, but it will not hurt if you have one, because Skype sometimes works faster than email, and if we have an urgent job, we may send out a request on Skype and someone responds, and we handle it quicker than if we send out a dozen emails. So you do not need it, but it will not hurt. Rachel also asked, how long can it take to pay out? I think I answered, but I will repeat that we pay once per month in the first days of the month, like on the 5th or something. Once you get the money on your Smartcat balance, it takes a couple of days for them to reach the final destination. I'm so bright. Anyway. I'm waiting for a few more questions, if you perhaps want to ask some. And then I think we'll be wrapping it up. What types of content are most in demand right now at SC? I think emails. With emails, I'm pretty sure we will be giving out a lot of them. Blog posts, if you are good enough to write a blog post, which is also not a given because blog posts are long form articles and it's not easy to write them. It can be a more lucrative job, so it will pay better, but yeah, as I said, we will have maybe 2-3 per week. Is there a test before having the first assignment, and do we receive feedback? No, what you have to do is send an application at the link you will find in the slides. Smartcat, copywriter application. And we will check your portfolio work and then add you to one of our tiers. I cannot promise that it will be done quickly because we received hundreds of applications and we process them like maybe 10 a day, so it doesn't get too quickly. Can you check my test and let me know in an email if I passed? Okay, John, I will double check yours specifically. But I will also send out, I think I might have forgotten to send out emails to those who have not passed. So yeah, I will do this anyway today. If you have not passed, but you are sure you can do better, then yeah, we can talk after a few months again. Yeah, okay. Will we know what tier we're on? Yes, those of you who have already submitted the test, you know this. It's not a problem for me to let you know. I'm just not sure if there's an easy process to do this. But yeah, I guess in general, I can do this because I will be reviewing your applications, assigning some tier, and I can send out a batch of emails every week saying that you have been assigned to this or that tier. Yeah, I think it's doable. When you submit your application, please include the portfolio work that most fits what you have heard so far. So either it doesn't have to be an email or a blog post, but try to find something that's the closest, because some people have submitted their poems in copywriting applications, and I cannot judge whether a person is a good copywriter if they submit poetry, you know. If you also write about jewelry, I might also not be able to judge how good a copywriter you are. So submit something for B2B. If you have something for, say, S companies, IT companies, that's good. The closer the better. You can even make it up and write some imaginary email, maybe trying to come up with a test assignment for yourself and write it. So yeah, that's also a good way to approach this. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'm wrapping it up, and thanks all for joining. Sorry it took more than an hour, Russ. I hope it was useful. You can get back to this recording at any time. It will be available at the same link. And yeah, enjoy your Thursday and hopefully work together soon. See you all. Bye bye.